Good afternoon, Sahil. Warm welcome to you on behalf of APAC News Network. APAC News is a media organization headquartered out of Noida.
Mhm.
We focus on multiple verticals: education, government, healthcare, IT, enterprise, and BFSI. And particularly in the government, education, and healthcare sectors, we are particularly strong. Perhaps the only B2B media who even in last 1 year hosted even the Prime Minister Modi in one of our platforms. Today's interaction, let's start. What we are trying to understand is in terms of the iCubesWire solutions and services and how they have been helping the enterprises. Maybe the best way to start would be if you can give an update on the portfolio of the solutions and services that iCubesWare offers for the Indian market.
Yeah, absolutely fine, Rajneesh. So, first of all, thanks for having me here, Rajneesh. Pleasure interacting with you and talking on your show. Talking about iCubesWire, we started the journey in 2010, and as we speak, it's been good 11 plus years we are running the business. Um, we got offices across India. We are headquartered in Gurgaon. We have offices in Bombay, Bangalore, Kolkata. We've got an office in Singapore. So, in terms of the team, we are, I would probably assume, more than 150 people now on board. And when you talk about the service portfolio, I think we can categorize that into three buckets. First one being performance marketing, which is a major chunk of the business we do. Performance marketing is done is done through in-house technology we manage, and what basically it does is it may be desktop, it may be the mobile, it may be customer acquisition, lead generation. We work with some of the biggest banks, some of the biggest e-commerce companies in India, and we work with the goal they have rather than they buying media on impressions, clicks, and other matrices. We work on the end objective they have. Like a big bank wants more accounts to be onboarded, a big e-commerce player wants a lot of a lot of penetration on the mobile side, wherein they want customers to download the app and make certain transactions alongside measuring the lifetime value of the customer. So those are the goals they have. So we work on the goals and deliver the numbers. Is how the performance marketing piece of the business goes. As I said, it's on desktop, it's on the mobile. A lot of them even happens on videos and all. That's the first leg of the business we have. The second leg of business is what we call the consulting business, wherein we work as a full service agency, where for a lot of brands, we not only manage the media, the performance, the social, their creatives, their copy, their content. At the same time, also look at a digital transformation for them. That could involve anything from creating their deck, creating their stacks on technology, or understanding what the entire consumer or the customer life cycle is for them, understanding what touch points they have, and creating the entire map of digital transformation for them. So that's the second piece of business, which we call as consulting. And the third is technology. Technology is quite detailed for us in the way we manage technology in-house and also for the customers we work with. So yeah, nutshell, this is what we do. And yeah, these are the three verticals, and that's what we're doing for last 11 plus years now.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll come specifically to let's start with the first vertical on the performance marketing, which you said. So what I would like to understand is one. This is for the operating model of it. For many of the enterprises or brands, they would have a certain integrated marketing campaign. Especially today, they would have integrated marketing. It would be both BTL as well as ATL, then through different delivery media. So now, as you were saying, that what you are doing, that's device agnostic, but how does it integrate with the uh, already the original marketing campaign that the brand is following? That is as far as the operating model I would like to understand. And from the business model perspective, what I would like to understand for performance marketing, do you work with the brands directly or with the agencies?
Rajneesh, answering the first question first, while obviously a brand would have a lot of different campaigns running around, when we talk of performance marketing, it's done through seamless tech integrations with their engines, with the systems, which talk to our engines. A lot of times it's through server to server. A lot of times we play snippets, and while that is done, the campaigns are defined, and whatever traffic or whatever acquisitions come through different sources, you can segregate them and do a lot of data analysis on them as well. That if you're working with, say, iCubesWire, what number of customers they've onboarded, and what are their LTVs, what IPs we are throwing, and a crazy amount of data which comes. So that seamlessly happens with deep integrations between their engines and our engines. So that's how it works. And while they may have a lot of other campaigns going on, there is no overlapping, and they can very clearly see if Facebook is giving them this much numbers and impressions and clicks, while Google is giving them this, or certain channels are giving them what, and then what numbers are we giving is quite black and white visible. While comes to coming to the second question you had, while we work with agencies or brands, we do both. I would not have the exact segregation, but I think most of the business we do is directly with the brands. At the same time, there are agencies we work with, but the major chunk of business is directly with the brands.
Okay, thanks. I'll come back to this part for another query later. But now you mentioned something about the humongous amount of data that is being generated. Now, ultimately, the data just being generated doesn't make sense unless meaningful insights are not derived of it with enough analytics. So both for performance marketing as well as for the second LOB that you mentioned, your line of business, that would involve these insights.
Yeah.
So one, and especially for your second business, your sources of information are very disparate. So that will be very heterogeneous kind of data and from very disparate sources. So how do we ensure some amount of standardization of the data so that then analytics can work on it for deriving meaningful insights?
Yeah, Rajni. So as far as the data goes in both the sides of the business you're talking about, I think the first performance side has substantially more data, because when we look at performance side and the kind of brands we work in and the kind of deliverables we have, I mean, the data runs into hundreds and millions of clicks, hundreds and hundreds of millions of clicks in a month. So yes, the data is humongous, and you rightly said a lot of data would not make sense till the time we have, we sort it right. And so we have a team which works on it. We call it a data scientist team. And while a lot of brands just want to work on the end goal, they don't care. But then there are a lot of brands, and for internal consumption of what is working for us right, what is not working for us right, and what can work better for us, we definitely do slice down that data and come with learnings which are either internal or either even for the customers to see as to what data is going to be, sliced down, and how it makes sense. So yeah, I mean, even simple data like, for certain brands, certain geographies, for a lot of reasons, make more sense than other geographies, right? Because we have IP as an important data point. So with IP, you can, up to a certain extent, segregate the geographies. So which also helps us then retarget the customer better based on the consumption they may have. So yeah, I mean, data plays quite a vital role, and it goes through quite a process of sorting and segregating the way we may want to look at the data and the way we may want to present the data and consume it.
How is that standardization part done? Because this data, it's not just humongous, it's structurally very different kinds of data because the sources are numerous and different. So, how is it? standardization being done?
I'm not sure there is a Rajneesh. I'm not sure there is one answer to the standardization, because when you look at the data which we generate, or the data which is generated by the sources of inventory we have, it varies. Because e-commerce works in a very different fashion. Within the e-commerce, you'll have a lot of different players having different goal. Then BFSI works in a very, very different manner. Then travel works in a very, very different manner. So, I mean, the honest answer is there isn't too much of a standardization, so to say. But then data is sliced, data is read, reread, and produced as and when required, as I said, for internal consumption and learnings, or for segregating and understanding that for a certain set of business of the customer, for a certain set of genre, what data is making sense and how we optimize it better so that they get better ROI. So there is no, I mean, I don't have one single answer to say this is the way it is standardized and this is the way it is not. I mean, since performance marketing is all ROI for the customer and for us, so I think the major attempt is to sort and segregate it in a way that we reach or we go towards ROI as a major goal. Then you segregate the databases on people's profiles and their social economic backgrounds. So there is a layer to it, but yeah, I mean, there is no set standardization, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
I wish,
So,
I wish there was one.
definitely, that would have helped. So, just sticking to the performance marketing part, you mentioned about case by case basis. So, what I wanted to understand is in terms of the brands that you work with. So, which are the verticals or the domains that you witness maximum traction, and what sort of use cases from the performance marketing perspective you see in those domains?
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest, if I have to name three, would be banking, e-commerce, and travel. I think these three are substantially big in the work we do. While three may seem like different verticals, but at the end of the day, I think if you look at the consumer psyche, I mean, I think all of us use all these three. We have apps of banks in our phones, and we consume it. While we travel, we use apps and for travel, and while e-commerce is anyways all around the corner. So yeah, I mean, these three are substantially big for us, and I think the use case is, if I look at banking as a solution, I think more and more customers being acquired is definitely one of the tasks for banks these days. The bank account opening is digital. Banks claim that you can open an account in 60 seconds through the apps by downloading the app and running through it. While that is one of the goals, the other goal is also to make sure that people who are using the bank accounts, obviously some sort of transactions also happen on those banks, right, accounts. So that's the banking side. E-commerce, I think earlier in e-commerce, the major goal was to have people just download the app and the apps reaching the smartphones. Now the goals have changed, or the goals have evolved in a way that while the biggest e-commerce companies we work with and we all know would not only want you to kind of download the app, but at the same time they measure the LTV, which we call the lifetime value. They would have device wise information as to how many installations of apps have happened through certain sources, and how many of them still have the app, how many of them have made one, two, three transactions in a given period of time. So that's the way the e-commerce side of business runs. Whereas travel obviously badly hit in the last 18 months or so because of COVID. But yeah, travel is directly looking at more and more bookings coming in. So yeah, these are three of the major a chunk of things we see on the performance marketing, at least. And yeah, I mean, obviously these three have different goals, but yeah, eventually all lead to acquisition and action, I would say, on the apps and on the phones when once you have the app downloaded.
Okay, thank you. Now, coming to the second business, you mentioned many organizations you help in their digital transformation. So, my first understanding I would like to know from you is what all are included in the scope of this digital transformation. What all is included? Is it from the assessment consulting level, since you do consulting around it here, and then the actual migration, or what all are involved in this digital transformation where you help enterprises?
So starting from the assessment, um, to implementing each edge of it is what we now push across as a digital transformation. Because and that's majorly led post COVID, because pre COVID the digital transformation, or the tech transformation, I would say, wasn't as seriously looked upon. But since COVID happened and a lot of things have changed, obviously. So a lot of brain from our strategists and the teams have gone into, into, for example, if you want to buy an apartment, and you live in Gurgaon. So right from the time you look at a certain ad or a certain display unit on any of the digital channels, from the time you buy the apartment and you are a resident, and then what are the touch points then and in the entire journey, starting from you looking at the ad and you visiting the websites, and what all touch points are there, then or through the process till the time you're a resident, is all which we believe come under digital transformation. And yeah, not only with devices, not only we study the use cases of what the brands want to do and what they ideally should be doing on digital, what are the channels involved, maybe email, maybe SMS, maybe social, maybe the apps, maybe the notifications, everything around, everything under the sun which may come under the digital ecosystem is something we do under the transformation. And as I said, not only the identification, designing, also the execution is something we do. It may involve a lot of tech stack work which our team does, and it may involve certain integrations with certain third party engines. So that's all which we bring. Obviously, once the systems are live, and you want to market it as well, in the sense of whatever customers you want to acquire. Maybe if we are talking of real estate, maybe you want to have leads and you want to have people visit the apartment and then make a transaction. All of that also involves a fair amount of media. So media also plays a very crucial role in the entire journey. So yeah, we while media is an expertise anyways because of performance, but yeah, still we when you work on the entire digital transformation, that also becomes quite a crucial part. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned especially that, and which was a logical thing, that digital transformation part of that business sort of expanded or increased in the post-COVID times. So, post-COVID, what we have seen for most enterprises, the digital transformation part is one. They have been able to sort of forced to migrate most of their applications or operations towards a cloud environment. Security has become another challenge, especially because a lot of heterogeneous devices and networks are coming into the system as
Yeah.
people are working from home and everywhere. So, apart from this cloud migration, security, especially these digital transformation supporting during these pandemic times, what have been the biggest challenges you have seen enterprises facing, and how have you sort of managed that? And also, since as you mentioned that a lot of third party engines and
Yeah.
a lot of other cloud solution providers or security OEMs you have to work with. So, in terms of your vendor or OEM agnostic, being vendor or OEM agnostic, how does that work out? Or how do you, what is your GTM basically, especially on this digital transformation part?
So Rajneesh, yeah, I mean, obviously, since the COVID, talking about the post-COVID times, most brands, I would say, are looking at transformation. And I think while yes, you're right, people are working from home, and those challenges are there. But I think the biggest challenge, or the biggest thing which we've seen brands have, or we collectively have, is how many systems or what part of businesses for brands is ready to be taken totally digital or tech driven, right? While a lot of them want to go the digital way, want to build better tech stacks so that it's all end to end managed. But in a lot of cases, not the systems are ready. The systems are not ready, the processes are not ready. So for us, working collectively with the brands, that's been one of the major challenges, where we do go and design it. Our go to market is end to end. I mean, in the sense, whatever tech stacks, media, performance, we've been able to all stitch it together and pitch it to them in the sense that this is where you should be, and this is how the consumer is changing its behavior. So that's been our GTM, go to market. But I think the major challenge is has been or still is, while the world says post COVID, the world has gone digital, and there is a movement. I would agree to it up to an extent, because there is movement, people want to do it, but not many systems are ready. So that's one challenge the brands are facing. I mean, a lot of big auto giants we work with, you know they we are in dialogue, and they really want the entire process of buying an automobile, maybe a two-wheeler, four-wheeler, also get digitalized. But then you have dealer level things, and then you have localized issues in terms of delivery and in terms of inventory. So yeah, work in progress overall, us as well as for the brands we work with. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't been as swift as probably the world thinks. Whenever we meet someone, they say digital, or you must be booming, because that's where it is gone post COVID. But yeah, I mean, that's not the full story. So yeah, work in progress. And brands are figuring out how do they bring in more automations in their processes, so that they become eligible to be taken on digitally.
The second part what I asked was about iCubesWire go-to-market strategy, especially while you're working with the third-party engines or other cloud platforms or security OEMs. So, how do you sort of approach the customers?
I think our go to market has been fairly straight. I mean, we design the entire processes which we think are applicable for any brand when they have to move digital. And not only we design them, we help them execute. And as far as the third parties or OEMs go, I mean, depending on whichever industry we work with, depending on whatever integrations which are required, I think we've been doing it for them. So I think our go to market is, in one word, is we do everything under the sun when it comes to tech and digital, and are able to define the entire digital transformation journey. And yeah, we deliver it. So our GTM has been as simple as this.
Okay. And the third part of the business, technology, which you mentioned. So, if you can elaborate a little more on that, what that involves and how does that pan out?
So when we talk of technology, Rajneesh, one is it strongly supports the business one and two. When we talk of performance marketing, each and every data point which we talk about, each and every acquisition we talk about, each and every brand we talk about, even a single click may have 50 other attributes are recorded digitally. So that's all managed in a big data, where hundreds of millions of clicks are delivered every month. So that's the first way the technology is supporting it. Second, the line of business which we've just spoken about is the agency business, where not only we look at the basic stuff from creating web engines and all, to up to the external digital transformation. That's all is being covered under the digital technology wing we have, which is the third business. And lastly, although we don't push it over aggressively, but yes, with all the brands we work with, there are a lot of custom techs we make. Like for one of the big American telecom giants, we're right now making end-to-end tech stack, where the entire customer acquisition they do physically on the ground is going to be mapped to their data engines through the tech we are building. So that's being done by us in house. So these are the three things which the tech part does. Supports business one and two, and delivers a lot of custom products on the third side as well, which do complement the business one and two.
Okay, so then we can say the sort of the third business is part of the support and services function for the other two businesses, more or less. And business model wise, is that more a cost center kind of thing, cost center for the other two businesses?
No and yes, both. It is definitely a call center, but mostly, even without flexing too much, it gets substantial work to self-sustain. So It is not a cost center, yeah, but it's not even a revenue center. I think it manages of its own. But the kind of support it gives and the kind of backbone it has for the other businesses is I mean, what you identify is right. I mean, it's not something you're flexing out and saying we are a tech company. We may want to go that route, but right now we will safely call martech. We like the word martech, where we are more marketing than tech.
Okay, so now overall, if we look at the all the three businesses, how many? What's the approximate number of total customer base that you have, and which will be some of the marquee customers who are referenceable?
I think Rajneesh, at any given point of time, we have more than 200 customers we work with, probably a little more. And some of the biggest customers, if I talk about, are obviously Amazon, Flipkart. When I look at banking, Kotak Bank is fairly substantial for us. And when I look at travel, we work with Indigo Airlines, we work with Booking.com, we work with MMT. So these are some of the big prominent names we work with.
Okay. And in one of the earlier answers, you mentioned about the data scientist, that data science team that you have to maintain. So a little bit, if you can, the iCubes were infrastructure, both in terms of manpower resources as well as the otherwise infrastructure. You earlier mentioned about the locations of the offices, but how are you structured, both in terms of manpower resources and overall infrastructure geographically?
So, as I told Rajneesh, the team is almost 150 people now. We are headquartered in Gurgaon, so I think out of 150, probably 115 people sit in Gurgaon, which is the main headquarters, where we have the management team, we have the delivery teams, we have the tech team, we have copywriters, we have designers and data scientists. Then the branch offices, which I've mentioned, are majorly sales and client servicing, where we have people who are mostly into the business development function, and obviously we have client servicing teams sitting out of those offices as well. So yeah, that's in a nutshell the distribution we have.
And just another thing I wanted to understand was some of the customers you mentioned, and even for other customers. Do you offer sort of cross marketing in terms of for those whom you were offering the performance marketing solutions? You help them with their digital transformation,
Oh
or
yeah,
how
yeah.
does it work? Or are they separate set of customers?
No, I mean, obviously they are separate set of customers in principle, but I mean there are a lot of there's a lot of cross selling which happens. Some of that we do religiously and in a structured way. Some of that happens to the customers. Like for example, we can talk about Indigo Airlines. We also manage their influencer marketing. We also manage their customer acquisition. While influencer marketing piece comes under the agency wing, customer acquisition comes in the performance wing. So there is definite overlapping. Yeah, but I think a major chunk is driven by the businesses themselves as the verticals we have. But there are a lot of players for which we do everything from acquisition to tech to managing their social transformations. Some we do just one bit, some we do two. So there is cross selling and there is overlapping, obviously, but not up to a great extent. I would say we would want it to we want it to happen a lot more. But yeah, in the real world scenario, it doesn't happen because in a lot of cases the brands are fine with one thing being given to one partner, one being given to one. Some want to manage certain things in house. So yeah, it's but yeah, we would really want everyone to use everything.
Another thing we spoke about the digital transformation impact during the pandemic times. On the performance marketing front also, say pre-pandemic, there was already an integrated marketing approach where things like more like experiential marketing and those were coming in vogue. Experiential marketing definitely went for a toss during the pandemic, and now the focus has been more on the social and the digital aspect of it. So, in that overall, the performance marketing, what were the noticeable trend changes that you observed during the pandemic and how brands sort of realigned their marketing strategies?
I think, see, to be honest, COVID during the peak and also post up to an extent did have quite a denting impact on performance. I must acknowledge for a couple of reasons. One is a lot of industries were not looking at any new customers. For example, travel was shut, right? So when travel is shut, you're not looking at any acquisition, may it be organic, may it be through performance, right? While some of the other industries like food delivery and grocery saw a very organic spike, because I don't think as consumers we ourselves were buying that much through these channels, right? So to be honest, during that phase, the brands, and obviously when you look at banks and their acquisition, there was a time in between where banks also said we don't need new customers, right? So that was a phase where the whole thing was stalled, and acquisition, whatever was happening organic. But now, since fortunately, I hope there is no third wave, we are moving to possibly normal lives. I think a lot of that has been realigned in a way that a lot of budgets which were on non-digital channels are also coming on digital channels, and with that, obviously, a certain segment goes to performance marketing for most brands. So I think the shift has been there. Now performance marketing is possibly shining a little more than it was shining pre-COVID, but I mean, I think time will tell, because a lot of transformation is still going on in the way brands are functioning, and I really hope that that sounds and comes out as a good news for marketeers like us.
Yes, hopefully, definitely. So, the last question I'd like to ask is, now in this scenario, as normalcy returns, and keeping that in mind, the three business lines that you mentioned, what are going to be your key focus areas for the next 3 to 4 quarters? That can be in terms of services, geographies, or whatever, but those 3, 4 key focus areas.
I think in the coming 3 quarters or a year almost, while we really want to consolidate all the three verticals, we're seeing quite a good movement on the performance bit and also on the digital transformation bit. As far as internally it goes for us, I think we're looking at expansion in the MENA region. That's one area we have customers in Dubai, in Saudi, and even in Turkey. But that's not something we've done in a very religious way. So for us, in the next 1 year or so, the real opportunity or the real goal is, once obviously to work on the challenges which we have internally and stuff we keep on managing, but at the same time looking at markets like the MENA region, wherein we are expecting good traction in the coming year or so.
So, are you looking at beyond those three verticals, banking, e-commerce, and travel that you mentioned, to diversify into other domains also?
We work with Rajneesh possibly every vertical, from gaming to education. Why I mentioned those three? Because those three are substantially big. While we don't mind others becoming equally big, it may be gaming, it may be any other verticals. We're doing work there. Why I mentioned these three verticals was precisely because these are the substantial numbers we do so.
Great. Thanks a lot, and really appreciate you taking your time out for the interaction.
Pleasure speaking with you. Have a good day. Thank you very much.